Hey there guys, it's Vampire Preacher. We're going to be doing something real weird today. We're not going to be unboxing Marvel Legends, because I don't have any. What I do have are a wave of DC Multiverse figures. Hear me out. First of all, you have no idea how long it took me to find one of my Batman shirts. I've got like 3 compared to my like 40 Marvel shirts. It was a little bit hard to find one. That being said, this started out with one figure in the wave. I'm like, you know what? It's one figure, whatever. I want a reference for cosplay. That'll be fun. And then I saw a second figure, eventually, down the line. And I went, wow. Well, that one's kind of cool for my wife to cosplay. And then I saw one of them at Ross. Yeah, shout out to Ross for that. For like $5. I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not gonna pass up that kind of price. And I made it so I was only one figure away, and then I happened to find it when I was in Chinatown for Lunar New Year last week, and, well, here we are with a wave of DC Multiverse figures and 2 bonus figure unboxings today. Yeah. This is weird. Used to trash talking DC. Enough of me talking. You don't want to hear me talking. You want to see figures, even if they're DC figures. So the figure that started off this whole snafu is right here. It's Batman. So we have Batman, not just regular old Batman. No. This is our good old Gotham by Gaslight Batman. This is Victorian England Batman. This, I want to cosplay someday. And that's what got this all started, is me going, that's a cool ass design. I want to cosplay that. Now here we are. So, enough of me talking, let's get into what we got here. So, as we can see, front of it, we've got pretty much the same thing we're going to see with a Marvel Legend, where we've got the window pane front. It shows us all the contents inside. Shows us a little picture of comic book Batman on the side, and there got a little blurb of him here in the Victorian era. Our 4 figures of the wave, and our build-to-figure, who will be the last one before our 2 bonus figures of the day. I'm pretty sure the last unboxing I did wasn't even a multiverse set. It was a different type. So we've got that cape for Luthor. We've got this background, which is very basic. Luthor's head. Huh. Well, that's an interesting thing that I was not aware of. Batman's cape here is pleather. It's not just soft plastic, it's actual soft goods. It's pleather. I haven't had a Batman with an actual cloth cape since I was a kid. I'm talking about the one that every kid back in the 80's had. The one where Batman had the grappling hook that came from his belt here. And the string would always break. And you'd have to get a new string. Or, because you couldn't get the string out, you'd have to get a whole new figure. Not that that happened to me, seriously, like 3 frickin' times. Alright, so let's get into our articulation here on... This is weird. This is weird. I'm not comfortable with this, guys. Let's get into our articulation with Batman here. Now, I will note, besides our hand... Like, look at this. This thing's nearly coming off here. I will note something that is really what made the design stand out. He's not using batarangs. He's using these throwing knives. which of course we all know that getting a throwing knife thrown into you completely non-lethal. Because Batman doesn't kill. That's non-lethal way to take someone down. It's just to throw a throwing knife.
You can't be this. You think they're sleeping?
Look at that poor little guy. He's all tuckered out.
Don't do that. That's an excellent way to become a murderer and make Batman want to hunt you down. Anyway, so yes, he comes with 4 teeny tiny throwing knives here. So that's neat. For the articulation on this figure, that's as far as he's looking down, and that's as far as he's looking up, mostly due to the cowl on the top of his cloak cape here. I'm not even sure what to call it. For our shoulder articulation, we're getting a T-pose out of him, but the cloak part up here that was stopping his neck articulations also limiting the shoulder articulation, rather. He does have bicep swivels. He's got single-jointed biceps. I think that's actually a common theme throughout all of our figures. I don't think DC does double-jointed. I think they only do single-jointed, so there you go. No comment. These figures are, of course, done by Mattel, who I believe are also the same ones that did the Jurassic Park figures that we looked at not too long ago for our sexy Jeff Goldblum figure. He has the standard in and out wrist articulation. As standard as any of this can be, because I know nothing at all about a DC figure. I'm going to be straight up honest with you guys. I know nothing about DC figures. Except that this is a really, really loose hand. And what's this open hand here for? Like, okay, these hands are so that you can put knives into them like this. So that you can have Batman throwing multiple knives the way he does batarangs in modern times. If I can get them all in, which... whatever, you get the idea. Batman holding up knives to throw them. I don't understand what the open gripping hand is here for. I don't know. To be honest, I just don't know. For our ab crunch on our Batman, that's as far forward as we're going, and that's as far back. He does have a waist cut. For our hip articulation, I gotta admit, Mattel, you score a point there. You score a point over Hasbro, because that is a heck of a leg articulation. I don't know what in the world stain that is on the back of his leg, but that's nice. But that is a much wider spread than we get with almost all of our Marvel Legends. We do have a thigh cut on him. We do have double jointed knees, which only go back so far. The very Victorian boots, which I may or may not already own, they go up a little too high here. There's a lot of rubbing at that knee joint there to make it so that it can't go too far. I don't know if these guys... Oh, they do have rocker ankles. Okay. Decent degree out, a painful degree in. A pretty great degree forward, and... yeah, all the way on point back. Now, you guys know I'm normally used to looking at Marvel Legends and not really DC figures here, so this one's kind of a weird one for me. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's cool. It's very similar to a Legend. The articulation's on par, I'll say. The lack of double jointed elbows is a little weird, but I mean, there's still some Marvel figures that lack double jointed elbows, so there's that. But the fact that all of their figures don't have them is super duper weird to me. I'd expect them to be there at least for some of the figures. But here we are nonetheless. I kind of wish there was a little bit more detailing in these little knives. I do like that they just packaged it with the knives in his utility belt here, instead of trying to do something like Hasbro would do, where they'd have all the little knives separate in the packaging and maybe not even have a place for them to be holstered on the figure. I like the cloth goods cape. That's, again, it's weird because and look at it, it's a shiny leather. And it's obviously a fake leather, but still, I'm gonna guess that's a type of... Because I've read some of Gotham by Gaslight. I'll be honest with you guys, I haven't read all of it. I think this was also the costume he wore in Batman vs. Jack the Ripper. It's a unique figure. It'll go well with my other Batman figures, because I will admit, even though I'm more of a Marvel guy, I do have a selection of Batman figures. More so, I've got pretty much every Archer that DC has. Pretty much every single one of them. A mess of Green Lanterns. I've got just one or two Batmen in modern days. I used to have a ton of them when I was a kid. They're still around at my parents' house. I'm sure if I went looking, they would be there. But, well, hello to you too. Someone else wants to play. Anyway, if I have to give the figure a rating before I give a rating, I didn't forget. You guys over here being all accusatory. I didn't forget. How could I ever forget about our old friend the T-Square? So we can see Batman's coming in. And he's right at about the scale for a Legend. From the top of his bat ears, he's right at about 6.5, almost 6 3/4 inches. If I have to give him a rating, I would say that he's a 7. He's fun. He's different. Again, I like the design a lot, which is the entire reason why I bought him, is the design. So I could have a reference for cosplay. But he's fun. He's fun. He'd be a unique piece to display in a DC collection. And first things first, before we get on to our second figure, since someone else has decided they want to come and play, I know my chat knows her. This is my adorable baby girl, Nicoletta. Aww. Since she decided she wants to come in, see what her daddy's doing. Alright. Let daddy work. Be a good kid again. So, for our second figure of the wave, let's get into the second figure that made me get this whole darn wave in the first place, which would be Vixen. And yes, I realize my editor/wife, Retro Vixen, is, it's right there in the name. It makes it super duper easy for her to cosplay. Which, yeah, the reason why I got this figure in its entirety is Vixen, Retro Vixen. It's definitely a costume she could pull off. And something she might even be interested in pulling off. I'm down. I'll help her make this costume. I've got no problem with that. But let's dive on in and see what we've got here. Of course, we've got our window pane front, our little comic book panel of Vixen on the front and side, our blurb all about the no, she's not nefarious. She is a good person, not a villain. Mary McCabe? I'll be honest with you guys. I only know of her a little. I'm not super duper familiar with the character. I've seen a couple things with her, but I've never really read up too much on Vixen. On the inside of the packaging, we've got Vixen. Again, our background's that same generic background. Nothing really to see here. She comes with the body of Lex Luthor, who, yes, has a Superman S on his chest because living rent-free in your head. It's all that you're letting him do, Lex. You're letting that man live rent-free in your head because you're so obsessed with him.
Why you so obsessed with me?
And now you don't even need to be, because Brian Michael Bendis has made it so that there's no secret identities. So now you can just be super duper evil and know that a reporter is the one that's been putting you on for all these years. Vixen only has one accessory that she comes with, and it is this awesome eagle. This awesome spirit eagle. I know that her big superpower is transforming into different animals and using their abilities, so we've got this awesome spirit eagle that she comes with, even though it's a little bent up from being in the packaging, which is actually an articulated eagle. That's all of the articulation you got. It's just the wings flapping. But still, there you go, articulated eagle. As for our figure herself, yeah, looking at everything about this character, just looking at this figure, again, the reason why I got this is for cosplay reference points, because, yeah, I see us doing this as a duo costume one day. Probably even just these two costumes, this and the Victorian Batman. Anyway, let's get into our articulation. For our neck articulation, that's as far as she's looking down, and that's as far as she's looking up. You don't got a whole lot of range on the neck articulation of these figures. For our shoulder articulation, better than a T-pose. I'll take it. No bicep swivels here. What is it with American toy companies and just hating to do any kind of articulation for female figures? We only have the single jointed 90-degree elbows, but that's how it is with all of our figures today. But less than 90 degrees. That's pathetic. The standard in and out wrist articulation. For our ab swivel, Mattel, Hasbro, both y'all, give you ladies an ab crunch. They need it. They want it. We want it for them. Come on now. That's as far forward as she's going. Did you blink and miss it? And that's as far back. I repeat, that is all the way forward. That is all the way back. That's it. She doesn't even have side-to-side movement. That's just all of it. There is no waist cut here for her. Hip articulation, it's better than most Legends, but not as good as Batman. We, of course, have the thigh cuts, which is a little bit hard to see due to her coloration there, but, yeah, we've got the thigh cuts. We've got the double-jointed knees. Hers can go back a pretty decent degree. They're not a fantastic degree. There's a little bit of rub there on the calf, making it so that it can't go back any further. She's just got too thick of calves to make it happen. We do have the rocker. I believe we've got the rocker ankle. I have no idea. Because, let me tell you, that looks incredibly painful. I think that's just as far forward as it can go. And she can go all the way on point. But the rocker ankles, they're working kind of wonky on her. I'll be honest with you guys. Is this a fantastic figure? Not really. I know Vixen is a very cool character. I might pose this one as fighting with one of my two cheetah figures, because she's animalistic. Cheetah's an actual animal. Oppose her fighting against the cheetah that's the actual anthropomorphic cheetah. And I'll pose my other cheetah with a figure that we'll see later on today. So I can actually use both cheetahs. It's weird that she can't put her elbow all the way back. I mean, I like that they sculpted the elbow here. You can actually see it there, but it also makes it so that she can't get her arm fully straight. It's kind of weird. Whatever. As for the rating I'd give her, as a figure, it's a 4. It's a 4. She's got some of the same problems as Marvel Legends do, where they take the female figures and they say, it doesn't need to be articulated. We don't need bicep swivels or waist cuts or ab crunches. Nah. Not to hell with all that. We've got a female figure, and that's all we need. It's not good enough. It's not good enough for you, Hasbro. It's not good enough for you either, Mattel. Get better. Well, since we're going in pretty much acquisition order, our next figure is the one that I found for that super duper cheapo price at Ross, and it's the Ray. Now, some of you might know the Ray because I do know Ray Terrell on here, who I know I've seen in comics. I think I've got a comic that features him. Again, not super duper familiar with the character, if I'm being honest. But I found him for cheap and he was going to complete the wave, so here we are. It happens like that sometimes. Anyway, let's get into it. We've got our window pane front, our artistic rendering on the front and side here, our little blurb all about Ray Terrell, and yeah, again, all of the figures, which we are 3/4 of the way done once we're through with this figure here. So let's grab that opening tool of ours, pop it open, and find out just what this character, who was honestly, from this wave, the only shelf warmer I ever saw was this figure. The Batmans would always go flying off the shelves. Vixen I saw exactly one time and I bought her. And the final figure, I think I saw twice. I passed up on her the first time, and the second time it was because, well, I needed her for this unboxing. Same standard background, nothing special there. He comes with the arms of Lex Luthor. which, is it weird to say Lex Luthor is the Build-A-Figure? The answer is a little bit. A little bit. I'm used to having Build-A-Figures. So I've had some DC figures in the past. And with the exception of that one wave that I was talking about reviewing earlier, where it was just Wonder Woman and Wonder Girl. It was a 2-figure wave. And again, I found that at Five Below, so that was going to be super duper cheap. Whole wave for $10. Yeah, I'll take it. I'm not used to DC's Build-A-Figures being so small besides that one 2-figure wave, but that was 2 figures for a very tiny Build-A-Figure. I've got a Gentleman Ghost. I got him as soon as he came out. And he has part of Giganta. Like, her head. Because it came with her head, and her head's like this big. She's this huge figure. I know most of DC's Build-A-Figures are usually like that. They're like Killer Croc and Kilowog. I've got the full Ares Build-A-Figure from the Wonder Woman movie. Because, again, I found that at Five Below. It was super cheap, and I liked the design of Ares. I liked some of the Wonder Woman designs, and, well, again, I got the whole thing for, I think, like $30. So there you go. Because I wasn't going to spend full price on that. But it made for a very cool Ares, who I think I currently have in my display grappling against Kratos for God of War versus God of War. Anyway, I'm just not used to the smaller Build-A-Figures from DC, or the Connect and Collect whatever. I'm used to them being slightly taller, bigger, beefier figures, and I don't think Lex here is going to be a big, beefy boy at all. No. Get that out of here. He's not going to be a big, beefy boy today. I can already tell he is small boy. Enough about that. Let's get into the figure at hand, the Ray. So, for our neck articulation, that's as far down as we're looking, and that's as far up. Pretty much just looking forward, not really looking back at all. I don't know if that's because of his jacket or if that's just the limitations of the articulation. For his shoulder articulation, it took us a second. We're getting better than the T-pose. We've got a soft plastic, kind of a soft rubber jacket on him. For our shoulder articulation, we've got, not shoulder, we do have the bicep swivels here, which are a very different cut than Batman's, and a very different cut than Vixen's, because she doesn't have any. These are just kind of a straight cut versus the actual curve cut that we see with most bicep articulations. Kind of weird. For our 90-degree elbow, which, yeah, it's barely getting 90 degrees out of them. We've got our standard in and out wrist articulation, which is, I feel like that's just an industry standard, that it's going to be the in and out wrist articulation. The sword articulation is cool, but I don't know how many people actually get that. For our ab crunch, that's the best we've seen today going forward. And going back, it's a decent amount. We, of course, have a waist cut on him. For our hip articulation, it's even better than Batman's. Where he's doing more than a split. His legs are actually going back upward afterwards, which is incredibly painful. It's a great degree of articulation on him, but I'm not sure what I'd ever use quite that much for. But it's nice to have the range. I do like that. I wish that Marvel's figures had more of this kind of range versus what they've got. We, of course, have the thigh cuts here. Again, a little bit hard to see on him due to the coloration of the figure. For our double jointed knees, we're going back a decent degree, not a fantastic degree. He's got a little bit too much meat on his thighs here and a little bit too much meat on the calves to go back any further. We have rocker ankle? I don't know. The rocker ankles on these guys are kind of weird. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not forcing it. For our forward ankle articulation, it's going a decent degree forward, and you can go all the way on point back. So let me be 100% honest with you guys. I might not know the character real well. Jeez, that's why the neck articulation sucks on these. Look at the neck peg on this. This little joystick here, and that's all that it does. It's just a little bit forward and a little bit back. That's why the neck articulation sucks. It's also why trying to put this secondary head on to see how it looks is kind of a pain, and I don't want to force it. It's nice to have him smiling, I guess. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't know much about the character, but for a figure, he's not great. He's not great. I'm not going to lie to you. Before I give him a rating, he's at about 6¼ inches from the top of his fin. And Vixen, since actually, first things first with Vixen, for that little articulated eagle we got, it's got about a 4-inch wingspan. For Vixen herself, she's coming in at just above 6¼ as well. So she's about the same height as the Ray here. Yeah. From the top of her hair and the top of his fin. Or not for the hair and the fin, they'd probably still be the exact same height. I'll be honest with you guys. As a character, I don't know much about the Ray. I've seen a little bit of him. His powers are kind of neat. I remember seeing him, I believe he was in DC Universe Online at one point or another. Which, it's cool. And yes, I do play DC Universe Online. Because if Marvel had a game like that, I'd be playing it, but they don't, so here we are. He's a 4. He's nothing spectacular. He's not a figure that's so much fun that I say, you gotta get him no matter if you know the character or not. He's a 4. I'm glad I paid $6 for him. $5-6, however much it was. I'm glad that's all I paid. Otherwise, I don't think it would have been worth it. Our next one is the last figure that we got, and our last figure of the wave. Thanks, Mattel, for making small waves so that I can get all the figures and not feel super bad about it. Final figure of this wave is Wonder Woman. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Vamp, why didn't you want Wonder Woman? As much as I am a Wonder Woman fan, like I said, I have the entire Ares Build-A-Figure. I have the Dr. Psycho, I believe it is, Build-A-Figure. It means I'm currently kicking around with like 4 Wonder Women. Probably have more like 5 or 6. And while my mother is a huge Wonder Woman fan, especially the original television show, the Linda Carter one, I'm only so-so a Wonder Woman fan. She's nice and all, but I'm always so-so a Batman fan, to be fair. I'm more so an Oliver Queen and Hal Jordan fan, but that's neither here nor there. So, I saw this figure and said, I really don't need another Wonder Woman in my life. I don't care about the Lex Luthor build figure. I'm only ever going to find the Batman that's got the head, and I'm not going to care. I'm just going to use it for cosplay reference. Well, then I found the torso with Vixen, and I'm like, man, I really do want that Vixen for cosplay reference, so here we are with a full and complete build-to-figure. Let's get into it, shall we? Again, we've got our window pane front that shows you our figure, all of her goodies. She seems to have the most accessories out of everybody today. Our comic book representation on the front and side. Our little blurb all about Diana Prince, who they just call the Amazon Princess. Her name is Diana Prince. Or at least it was, but I think they've retconned that away and whatever. And of course, we've got the other figures and our build-to-figure here on the back. Let's grab our opening tool. We again just have that kind of basic background. We've got our final two pieces of our build-to-figure here, which I will give Mattel some credit there. Instead of giving one leg and one arm to do this kind of normal size figure, instead of doing an arm here, an arm there, a leg here, a leg there, like we did recently, Hasbro, you and your Demo Goblin Wave. Instead of piecemealing it out like that, oh, here's an arm, here's a guy with heads, here's a torso. No. Both legs, both arms, head and cape, torso. Bam, done. Might have even been able to put the head and torso all together, put the cape in with the arms, and done it as a 3-figure wave. So she comes with her sword, which I know is a fairly new addition to the mythos of Wonder Woman. Not tremendously new, but fairly new. She only started using a sword. When I say fairly new, guys, the last, other than Young Justice, the last I really cared about DC was back with the PS2 game, which I beat start to finish in like a day or two. Because I really like that style of game, that kind of top-down dungeon crawler style. With 2-player co-op throughout the whole thing. Oh yeah, that game had me written all over it. Now, I do see that she's got a little hook right here on the side of the skirt, and of course a little ring there on the back of the sword, so you can just kind of pop it onto here. I believe that's its purpose, even though it's not. That doesn't sit real well on there. Does she have anything like that for her back? Oh, jeez. Mattel. Look at this. Look at this paint transfer here on her back to her hair, and this rub on the... Ooh. And people say the Marvel Legends have sloppy paint. I'm going to use my opening tool once again on these lassos. Because she comes with not one but 2 versions of the Lasso of Truth. Which I believe they've now called... I don't know if it's now called the Lariat of Truth or not. I know there was a time where they were calling it the Lariat of Truth instead of the Lasso of Truth. Again, I don't keep up with DC comics like that. I'm only going to undo this one. As well, this one is nice, and it'll sit probably pretty nice on that little hook ring she's got there. She also has a closed punchy fist, but only one closed punchy fist, not two. Weird. I think I'd rather have her... Yeah. I'd rather have the lasso of truth sitting here, attached to her hip, and have the other half of it in her hand. Yeah, something more like that, so it looks like she's ready to use it. The other one is nice to have just kind of hanging there, just kind of dangling. It looks like she actually even has a spot here to make it so that she grips it a little bit better. Yeah, it looks like she can even grip the lasso better with her other hand here. Kind of a nice thing. It's like adding the effect pieces with Spider-Man as of late. Makes it so that it's a slightly more dynamic figure, so that you can do more posing with it. I know the ones that came from the movie line didn't have quite the neat lasso this one does, so that's kind of cool. I might replace the other Wonder Woman that I've got fighting with the original version of Cheetah with this Wonder Woman, just because this is more, I want to say it's a more traditional outfit. I know it's more of her modern outfit, but at the same time, and it's very much based off the movie. You can tell based on the layered skirt and the corset being pretty much the exact same. Even the bracers being more of bracers and less of bracelets. Even the boots being a little bit different now. But I actually really do like this version. Just kind of looking at her before I even get into her articulation, I do kind of like this version. I might use this version as the version I'm going to display. Before we get into that, let's get into our articulation here. For her head, that's as far down as she's going. That's as far back. She's got way too much hair here to go any further back. Although she's got some of her back on her hair, as you can see there. No comment. For her shoulder articulation, better than a T-pose. Alright, I'll take it. No bicep swivel, and as we can see, for her ab swivel, that's all of her movement. Mattel, Hasbro, both y'all, work on your female figures. Give them bicep swivels, give them ab crunches. Just do it. We do, of course, have these single-jointed elbows, barely 90 degrees. All of our figures have had single-jointed elbows, though, so you can't really complain. But, man, that's still... Oof. You need to work on that, Mattel. We do have the standard in and out wrist articulation. It's a little bit impeded on by her bracer here, if you look down there. But not horrifically so. I do not believe, nope, she does not have any kind of waist cut. For her hip articulation, I will give you that, Mattel. You've got some great hip articulation to you. Every figure here has had better hip articulation than a Marvel Legend could ever hope for, but I just can't say that I'm in love with the designs of the hips. For our thigh cuts, of course, we've got them here. We've, of course, got the double-jointed knees. I think we're getting the best articulation today out of her double-jointed knee. And a very pointy end to whoever she's going to be kneeing in the chin. for our ankles. We do have rocker ankles on her, going an absolutely disturbing degree in, an incredibly painful degree out. A pretty great degree forward. That's actually fantastic. And going all the way back on point. All in all, I'll be honest with you guys, I wasn't looking to grab yet another Wonder Woman figure because heavens knows I have enough. That being said, I'm not disappointed with this one. I'm alright with this. I'm actually alright with this. I'm very okay with this figure. She has enough accessories to her to make her interesting. I can figure out some kind of posing for her later on, but again, she's got enough accessories to make posing her kind of interesting. I do wish that it'd be nice if they did a sword cut for her, because she actually has a sword. It'd be nice if this sword would actually hang better on her hip here, instead of jutting out at a weird angle. Well, let's measure her up real quick and give you a rating. So she's coming in at right at about 6.5 inches. I believe she's the official tallest figure of this wave of figures, which is unsurprising. She is the Amazonian princess known as Wonder Woman. So I'd expect her to be tall. You know what? I'm going to give her height as a rating. I'm going to give her a 6.5. She's the best figure that we've seen, but I'm not super duper in love with most of the design work. I do love the boots because the detailing here is actually raised. That's kind of a neat thing. The corset top, all of the ribbing here is actually detailed. Same thing with the skirt here. All of the golden lines there being detailed. There's even some lines on the bracers that are detailed. So it's all pretty cool. Again, she will work very well with my original comic book Cheetah. Because they'd be believable together. Yeah, I'm probably gonna... Yeah, I'm gonna replace my other Wonder Woman with this one in that little fight scene I've got going. Because she's decent enough. Sorry guys, I can't tell you any of the figures today have been just wow. I can't tell you that. They haven't amazed me. It's been a unique Batman, a just kind of really standard Wonder Woman, a literal Who, and most people would say the same thing about Vixen. I know who Vixen is, I think she's cool, but I'm probably one of like 6 people that do. It's just kind of an underwhelming wave. It's no one that's like really... I hate to make the comparison. Okay, I don't hate it that much. Because again, he actually sits here at my recording station now. Just because he's so damn cool. Boot cuts, rocker ankles, butterfly shoulders, 10 hands, extra accessories. I didn't get any of that from these kind of figures today. This is a... I don't remember if I gave him a 9 or a 9.5, but if I didn't give him a 9.5, that's what he deserves. Just because Shang-Chi here, who most people would think of as a literal who, is so cool, he is now displayed at my recording station. Because I love this figure that much. I love him that much. He's staying here. He's staying here. He's literally next to my wife/editor Retro Vixen's 8-bit Michelangelo that we've got here as well. Heck, I could probably take her NECA Michelangelo, make it so that they're having a nunchuck fight. That would be awesome. I just thought about that. That would be a very cool pose. That might be a picture. Anyway, enough of me talking about future things. So, that is our entire wave of DC Multiverse figures. Which means we only have one thing left. You know it as well as I do. It's time for our Build-A-Figure.
Atlanta Falcons.
Collect and connect. It's a Build-A-Figure. Call a duck here. So, we've got our... Here, let's take a closer look here, because you don't need to see me while I'm doing this. We've got our torso here from our Vixen. Our legs here from our Wonder Woman. Hopefully the legs will click in. Man, DC, you do not make it easy to assemble your Build-A-Figure, do you? We got our arms from the Ray. Look, DC, if you guys don't want to make it so that these figures go together, then just don't include the Build-A-Figure. And of course, our head from our Victorian Batman. Adding in that same cape from that same Victorian Batman, we now have Lex Luthor in a Superman mech suit. Power armor suit. It's a weird figure. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, when I think of Lex Luthor, this ain't really it. I don't really think of the Jesse Eisenberg either, but even though I own that figure, I don't really think of this as being Lex Luthor either. But here we are. So, let's get into the articulation for this guy. For our neck articulation, you can look down an alright degree, and you can actually look up decently well. Weird thing is, actually seeing, do you guys see that gap there? What is with this figure's engineering? It's so weird. For our shoulder articulation, kind of got to fight against these pauldrons he's got, but we're getting slightly better than a T-pose out of him. We do have the bicep swivels. We've got those single jointed elbows, which that's as far as we're going with that. He does not have an in and out wrist articulation. It looks like does he even have any kind of wrist articulation? I know there's a cut here. Seems like it's at least a just kind of spin articulation, but it's not wanting to really go for me. For our ab crunch, that's as far forward as he's going, and that's as far back. And really, that's it. That's all that we got. We do have a waist cut on him for our hip articulation. That's a great range. We do, of course, have the thigh cut for our double jointed knees. Lex Luthor, that's not what it's about, my friend. You'd barely get out of rehab after a knee replacement surgery with that. That's not too great. He does have the rocker ankles, but they're another set of those that are going in a real weird way. They more of pivot than rock. It's kind of weird. That's as far forward as his foot's going. If you blinked and missed it, that's it normally. That's it all the way forward. And that's it all the way back. Let's measure him. Let's measure him before we go passing judgment on Sexy Lexi here. Let's give him a measure. He's coming in right under 6 1/4 inches tall. 6 3/4 inches. That's why I was saying 3. He's coming in at just under 6 3/4 inches tall. He's underwhelming. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. He's underwhelming. I'm glad I didn't pay full price for the line. The only ones I really paid full price for were Batman and Vixen. That's because I grabbed them both as soon as I saw them. Because, I mean, I'm not a Superman fan to begin with, so Lex here wearing just kind of a robot Superman suit, something I would see in DC Universe Online with some fan OC character, he ain't doing it for me. He's not unique enough for me to really care. Lex, I'm sorry, man, you're not Kilowog. Kilowog is an interesting figure. Chemo is an interesting figure. This ain't it, Chief. As a build-to-figure, being that he is, again, right at about the same size here. He is about 1/4 of an inch taller than our Amazonian princess, Wonder Woman. I think they only made this into a build-to-figure because they were convinced no one was going to buy this figure, and they were right. They were right. He's not unique. He's not the Batman who laughs. I know that McFarlane is now in well, he's always been in 7-inch scale, but at least the Batman Who Laughs is a unique enough sculpt that even if I didn't know the comic, which I'm dreadfully familiar with the Batman Who Laughs comic, mostly because even when I couldn't read it, Comic Historian kept me up to date with it because he's absolutely wonderful. Go watch him; he's great. His complete series on the Batman Who Laughs was fantastic. Even if I didn't know about the Batman Who Laughs, he's a cool enough figure that I want him displayed. This, honestly, he's about as interesting as Superman, which is to say not at all. He's lucky I'm being generous and giving him a 4. Just because it's at least a mech suit. But that's all I got. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that takes care of the entire normal wave of multiverse figures for DC. And that means that we're all done for the day. Take care, have a great... No, we're not going to do that. I promised you 2 bonus figure unboxings, and by gone, you're going to get those 2 bonus figure unboxings. So, for our first bonus figure of the day, I'm not even going to remove this price because I want y'all to know just how much I paid for this thing. So, for our first bonus figure of the day, we are going to be getting a DC Classic figure with Poison Ivy. Now, if you can't see from there, you can see from here that this figure is currently going on clearance for less than $6. So if you happen to swing by a Target, go by their clearance section. If you want a original comic Poison Ivy figure, this one was less than 6 bones. And I will take it. I'm a big fan of Poison Ivy. Have been for a very long time. But I don't know if I've got any figures of her. I actually don't think I do. Other than, and this is going to go way back here, I'm pretty sure I have the original Poison Ivy figure from Batman and Robin. That's right. We're going way back to when Arnold Schwarzenegger was the Mr. Freeze.
Stay cool, bird boy.
Yeah. That's the last time I got a Poison Ivy figure. So, again, for less than $6, I'll happily get myself an Ivy and pop her next to my Harley Quinn. Or maybe have her fight that Victorian Batman, because I think this costume would go well against Victorian Batman. We've, of course, got the window pane front, the artistic representation on the side and the front. Our 3 figures that were in this not quite wave. There was no build to figure or anything. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I really did kind of want that Joker with the flower gag, because it reminds me of the original Joker figure that I got when I was like 3 or 4, that has a little water pump that squirts water out the flower on his jacket. But I saw him maybe once and then never again. Versus Pamela Isley, who, of course, the Target I was at had like 6 of her. All of them on clearance. No Batman, no Joker, but yeah, like probably 6 Poison Ivies. Which, I don't know, man. I don't think she deserves that. I think this is a pretty cool design. But of course, everyone that wanted it wanted Batman, or they wanted Joker. Inside of our packaging, at least we've got a different backing for her. We've got this kind of pop art comic background there. It's just yellow dots, but at least it's different than the blue squares. So it's at least one better there. We've got our fun Ivy pieces. We're gonna pop out of here. Our green crossbow. Because respect Mother Nature, or else.
Or else?
Now you're getting it.
And of course, we've got our Poison Ivy figure herself. Now, in hand, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, she feels kind of cheap. I'm even looking in, I'm seeing there's some paint that's just all kinds of messed up on her chest piece here. Her hair's got great detailing though, so that's a good thing. let's get into the articulation on this figure. That's as far forward as she's going, and that's as far back for our neck articulation. That I'm doing with one finger is all of the articulation she has in her entire head. Well, that sucks. For our shoulder articulation, though, she's getting better than a T-pose. I'll take that. I wish we had a bicep swivel. But we've got our single-jointed 90-degree elbow, which isn't even 90 degrees. Look at that. It's not even 90 degrees. That's pathetic. We've got the standard in and out wrist articulation here, if I can get my hands out of the way. Yeah. Just very standard wrist articulation. Again, a ab swivel. I'm not even going to say it again. I've said it twice already today. That's as far forward as she's going. That's as far back. That's all of your range of movement. For our hip articulation. Wow, it's better than a Marvel Legend, but it might actually be the worst that we've seen today. I don't know if she's got less hip articulation or if Lex Luthor there did. But one way or the other, yeah, that's it. We've got the thigh cuts there, which you can see. Again, very one-dimensional colors on the thighs of almost all of the figures today, so it's kind of hard to see all of our thigh cuts. For our double-jointed knees, that's decently far back. I think it might be the best we've seen today. She's got a little bit too much calf meat there to go any further back because it starts rubbing there, but it's not bad. For our ankle articulation, she doesn't seem like she's got rocker ankles. This is all I'm able to move her ankle is back and forth like this. And again, I don't want to go breaking this. What the hell is with this discoloring on the bottom of her foot? For our forward ankle articulation, that's as far forward as we're going. Going back, she can go pretty much on point. And since she's got the pieces, let's see what she'll wrap the lines. Okay. Alright. Okay, I'll be honest, that really does improve this figure. Like, drastically. You know, I gotta say, adding all of the Vine accessories on, really does do something to help out with this figure. Double jointed elbows would help even more to make it so that she could rest. If you're going to give a figure a crossbow, they need to be able to rest said crossbow either A, on their shoulder. Well, they need to always be able to rest it on their shoulder. That's just it. Done and done. They need to rest their elbow on their shoulder. Or rest the end of the crossbow, rather, on their shoulder. Either if they're firing it or if they're holding it up. And since she's got just a closed fist over here, and no double jointed anything except for knees, makes it a little bit hard for her to really carry that just right. I will admit, once you put on the Ivy pieces, once you put the plants onto Poison Ivy, that makes for a strikingly better figure. Breaking out our T-square again. She's coming in right under 6.5 inches. It's mostly all in the hair. You know, I'll be honest with you guys. I thought that it was so-so. That it was only a meh figure. I was glad I got it for $6. She's actually alright. She's actually pretty alright. I wish they had her come with another hand so that she could actually hold the crossbow. I wish that she was double jointed in the elbow here so that she could again hold the crossbow. But you know what? For $6, that's actually a really fun little Poison Ivy. It's amazing. When you add on the plant pieces, it looks like Poison Ivy. Before, she wasn't quite cutting the right... She didn't have the right cut to her. She didn't look like Poison Ivy without the plants. Just adding those plant pieces that they give you on, she looks substantially better. Like, this is a good-looking figure once you actually accessorize her out. Once you get the accessories on, this is a good-looking figure. I'm happy with this. This is the happiest I've been all day. Now, she does still suffer from all of the problems with pretty much every toy manufacturer, at least every Western toy manufacturer these days, of no ab crunch, no bicep swivels, nerfed articulation, no waist cut, because, I don't know, Hasbro and Mattel hate us. She's going to be a 6. Is she going to be a high number? No, but she's going to be a 6 because she's fun. Something I can't say about the others, she's fun. Even the Victorian Batman was kind of fun. Again, the leather cape was different. The bunch of throwing knives were kind of different. But it was only kind of meh. Same thing with Vixen and the Ray and Wonder Woman. Definitely Lex Luthor. This Poison Ivy's fun. I like her. I'd like a classic Lex Luthor to go along with her. Anna Solomon Grundy and a classic version of Black Manta, and that'll go into a whole mess of stuff that I'm just not willing to deal with. Just way too many figures for me to want, but I'd kind of like a Legion of Doom. I'd kind of like to do an entire Legion of Doom in the original styling like this. I kind of love it. I think it's cool. I've already got the classic cheetah. Might as well. That's a fun figure. For $6, that is the most fun I've had today. But we're not done yet, are we? We've got one more figure. He might not seem fun to you, but to me, oh, he's a ton of fun. I haven't even opened him yet. I'm already having fun just by owning this figure. Ladies and gentlemen, for our final bonus figure of the day, I give unto you Alfred Pennyworth. Yes, that is correct. The absolute mad lads at Mattel made an Alfred Pennyworth figure. I'll show you guys exactly why I'm so pumped up about this as we open them up. Let's get into what we've got in front of us. We've, of course, got our window pane front with our comic book rendering of Alfred on the front and side. Our figure of our Build-A-Figure, picture of our Build-A-Figure, who in this case is a great big killer croc. You can tell by this rather large arm that's in here. Probably bigger than Lex Luthor just in the arm. The other figures in the line, or in this wave, which minus Katana and Red Hood, except I already have several Red Hood figures. These would be the only other two I'd be at all interested in. I really don't care at all about KG Beast, and I don't need another Batman or Robin. I just don't. I just plain don't. But I do need some Alfred Pennyworth in my life. So, let's grab our opening tool one last time. Give a careful open to the most useful member of the Bat family. Now, I know what you all are thinking. Vamp, am I hearing something? Or did you just really say the most useful member of the Bat family is Alfred? You darn right I did. You damn right I did. Let me tell you why. So, in the box, we've got just that same standard backing that we had on all the others that weren't Poison Ivy. We've got this absolutely huge, like, you see, Lex, this is why I was unimpressed by you. You stand almost as tall as the arm of Killer Croc. The arm of Killer Croc is almost as long as you in your entirety. This is why you got such a low rating as Build-A-Figure. Because that is an impressive size arm. That's a big crocodile. You heard me. Crocodile. Alfred comes with a bunch of extra accessories, including a silver platter, a water glass, a crumpled up, not on him, obviously, version of Batman's mask, and the reason why I was so excited about this figure in particular, one, come on now, you. Two. 3. And 4 different heads for different versions of Alfred Pennyworth. That means that in this one figure, this one action figure here, you can put him with 4 different types of Batman. That is awesome to me. That is the entire reason why I bought this figure. Because we have our comic book version of Alfred here, who, if I recall, was in Her Majesty's Secret Service, MI6, as a trained sniper. Useful. We have this version of Alfred, which fans of the 1960s Batman would recognize as the Alfred Pennyworth from the show. You know, when Alfred, on more than one occasion, stood in for Batman and took his place so that Batman could meet Bruce Wayne to get people off the trail of Batman. Useful. The Alfred Pennyworth that I am most familiar with, other than the 1960s Adam West Batman version, the other Alfred Pennyworth that I'm most familiar with, and most of you probably will be too, this is the same actor that was Alfred starting in the original Batman with Jack Nicholson, who played Alfred for Batman, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin. Same actor for all 4 movies. That's awesome. And, as he proved many a time, you know, making Robin's costume, making Batgirl's costume, being the catalyst for them finding a resolution with Victor Freeze, because it's the same reason he had the same disease as Victor's wife in Batman and Robin. Even though he was useful for dying there, almost dying, useful. And if I'm being 100% honest with you guys, I don't even know what version this is from. It looks weird and creepy and bald, and it's got regular flesh tones behind his head, but the front of his head's all alien looking. I do not know this Alfred. I will be honest, I will be dead honest with you. I do not know which version this Alfred is from. If my chat wants to tell me which version of Alfred this is, from what medium, I'd be more than happy to hear. Pretty much the only heads we're missing are ones for Michael Caine and Jeremy Irons. And neither one of them really wore the tuxedos and referred to Batman as Master Wayne. Both of them were more like Q. Neither one of them would wear something like this. I'll be honest, this head, he looks more like Riff Raff than he does Alfred. But that's just the Rocky Horror fan in me. Anyway. That is why I was so excited when I saw this figure announced. Where just this version, I might still be somewhat excited. I know I saw there was recently, due to the recently released Batman and the Ninja Turtles film and comic run, they had a more comic book stylized version of Alfred, who was very neat. I saw him at a GameStop, but this is the version I wanted because of all of these heads, mostly because of the 1960s version and the version from the live action movies, but also if I could find a 1/12 scale M1 Garand to give to this version, who I remember getting his hands chopped off by the Joker for trying to shoot the Joker at one point when the Joker broke into the Batcave, because that was this useful version of Alfred Pennyworth. So, enough of me gushing about why I got this figure and why I think Alfred is amazing. Let's get into his articulation. Best downward neck articulation today, along with best upward. Alfred Pennyworth has the best neck articulation versus superheroes. Alfred is his own superhero. For our shoulder articulation, better than a T-pose. He does have bicep cuts here. They're just, again, like the Ray, they're straight cuts instead of the curved cuts. A little bit weird, but what have you. He does have the double jointed elbows. Wait, he what? Ladies and gentlemen, we've looked at 6 other figures today. 6. And not a single one of them has had double jointed elbows up until Alfred Pennyworth, the Butler. No man, no woman, no superhero, no dude in an ox suit. No one. Except for Alfred Pennyworth. And as soon as we find someone that's got double jointed elbows, what does Alfred give us? What does Alfred? Alfred freaking Pennyworth, of all people, what does he give us? He gives us that good flex. Come on now. Come on. You've got to be kidding me. Every other figure had single jointed elbows. Alfred comes walking in here, absolute champ that he is, just bam, double jointed elbow. That bends enough to give us a good flex. OG. Right there. He also has the inward and outward wrist articulation. He has an ab crunch on him. And that's as far forward as that's going, with that very loud crunch. And that's as far back. Not sure how much dynamic range I was expecting out of Alfred, but that's all we got. We do have a waist cut from him. A waist cut in his waistcoat. For our hip articulation. Yeah, one of the best we've seen today. That's a brilliant amount of hip articulation in Alfred Pennyworth. Mattel, you are as mind-boggling to me as Hasbro. We do have the thigh cuts here for the double jointed knees. If it weren't for a little bit of flash there, he'd almost be able to go all the way back with his double jointed knees. There's just a little bit of flash due to the back of his slacks. He does have rocker ankles, which are going a slight degree out, a tiny degree in, not very far. Might be because of the spats that he's got on, might be because of the bottom of the pants, probably the latter. That's as far forward as his foot is going, and that's as far back, and that's it. Guys, I cannot believe I'm telling you that. I can almost believe it. You know what? No, I can believe I'm telling you this. The best articulated figure of the day. The one that is the most fun of the day is Alfred Pennyworth. Alfred. Alfred is the most fun figure that we had today. He had the best range of articulation. He has more accessories than pretty much anyone except for Wonder Woman. With all of the multiple heads, there's no way you're going to go wrong. I wish I could balance the water on here so I could post handing Master Bruce a glass of water and a cowl. I am speechless right now. We reviewed rich men who think themselves superheroes. We reviewed actual superpowered beings. People who have been compared as being like a Superman or a god walking on Earth. And the best figure of the day we got was Alfred Pennyworth. Before I go giving him a rating, let's get our old T-square back in. Alfred's coming in just under 6.5 inches. If he didn't slouch, he might even be at 6.5 inches, but he's just under. Now I'm not sure about one thing, though. Do I display Alfred with Batman? Or do I keep the cowl in the box and display him with Tony Stark. It's the closest we're ever going to get to a Jarvis figure. Because I know we're never, ever going to get a Jarvis. Because now Jarvis is an AI. So we've got options. I'm thinking I might actually want to display him with my Iron Man to be Jarvis. Remove the cowl and just put the Iron Man, put an Iron Man helmet on the platter. Use an unmasked Tony Stark head. That could be a lot of fun. Guys, I love this figure. I love... You all see me smiling right now. And it's all because of Alfred Pennyworth. That's all I can even say. All of my smiles today are because of Alfred. How ridiculous is that to even say? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been a wild one. I thought I was going to enjoy this figure. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it this much. I greatly enjoy it. And honestly, even comparing it to our other figures that we saw today, we got a whole wave with Build-A-Figure. And the most impressive figure we got today was not of Batman or of Lex Luthor. It was of Alfred Pennyworth. That's insane to me. That is absolutely insane. Going over all of these figures, and the best one was Alfred. I'm at a loss for words. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me today. If you haven't seen... Bam, look at our socials. Of course, you're already here on Twitch. You know all about that. But make sure that you check out the Twitter. I tweet whenever I go live, which is every single Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, noon Central. And b.link/toydungeon for our YouTube link for this guy when this stream gets all memed up and edited and becomes hilarious because of my amazing editor, Retrovixen. Again, thank you so much for coming, guys. Have a great one. Don't forget, keep it nerdy. Alfred.